So we're going to talk about Webpack, and I'll just divide the talk up into Webpack. I'll divide it up into why are we talking about Webpack? What is it? What does it do for you? And how? We'll have a pretty lengthy sort of hands-on section where you're welcome to follow along with what I'm doing either live or afterwards. And I'll show you kind of step by step what you would be doing to set up Webpack for yourself if you ever have an occasion to do that. Okay, so let's get into it. So why should we learn about Webpack? Why do we think it's a good idea to learn about Webpack? I think the first reason is it's very widely used. You have probably heard of it. And it's very widely used considering that all three of the most popular front-end frameworks use Webpack internally. They may or may not advertise that fact, but they all do use it. And because they are using Webpack, and because Webpack is a very sort of highly featured tool and highly configurable tool, each of these front-end frameworks have had to come up with a way of allowing you to customize Webpack in some fashion in the event that you do need to do that. So that leads us to the second reason why you might want to learn about Webpack, which is there might be occasions that calls for you customizing Webpack. I'll say customization. And the third reason I think you should know about Webpack is the more you know. I hold the opinion that the more you know about the tools that you're using, the more powerful you become, the more able you are to control whatever it is that you're doing. And because all of our tools, or at least most of them, are open source, really there's no really hard limit on what you're allowed to know, and you might as well take advantage of it. Okay, so that's the why of any questions or any comments about this section? Okay. All right. So what does Webpack do for us? And why do we need it? Why are we using it? Why are these major web frameworks using it? The one sentence summary of it is it gives you more features, gives the JavaScript language more features. So sort of a cheesy term would be it supercharges your JavaScript. It gives it more features. In what ways? Well, the actually the most important way, or the one single feature that was most lacking in JavaScript for a very long time, that was modules. JavaScript historically did not have a module system when it was first designed and released to the public, and because of that, and because the sort of developers really high desire for a module system to exist. Various developers have came up with and designed and implemented various module systems to go along with JavaScript. You might have heard about things like Require.js, Browserify, System.js. These are all examples of various developers taking it upon themselves to come up with a module system that would enhance JavaScript. At some point, we finally the standards body, I believe it's called W3C, they have came up with a standard module system for JavaScript. However, that even though it became a standard, the implementation uptick for that was actually quite slow. And because of that, and because developers cannot wait, developers have to make systems that can make modules work. And that is one key thing that Webpack does for you. It adds the ability for you to say, like, import star as Lodash from Lodash. So that's what I mean when that's what I mean when I say modules. Like it used to be that you simply can't do that in JavaScript, and now you can with Webpack. Now there's an asterisk next to that claim. Actually, more recently, modules have been implemented natively into the browser as well as into Node.js. So if you're using the bleeding edge technology, you can even use modules without using Webpack. If you're interested in that, you would want to look into something called ESM modules. Oh boy. Okay, not the circuit board, but the ECMAScript modules. So ECMAScript modules is actually a feature that sort of is implemented natively in the Chrome browser as well as all of the other leading browsers now, as well as Node.js. So it is actually possible to use modules even if you don't use Webpack. But there's kind of like a more recent development. Even though that's the case, Webpack is still very very widely used just because it's been entrenched for so many years. And in addition to modules, it also has a bunch of other features, such as it can plug-in system. It has plug-in systems that allow you to plug in TypeScript, Babel, CSS preprocessors, such as Sass, Less, etc. It has plugins that allows for a lot of different languages that you might add to your project that are popular these days. Okay. Yeah, I think that summarizes what it does for you. And any questions about this? Okay. So now we're getting into the how. Okay, so in the how section, I'm gonna do a hold on. Okay, I'm gonna do a demo, which will I'll split that up into sections. The first section is going to be how to set things up. How to, like you're making a new project, brand new project, and you're gonna use Webpack. How do you set it up? Keep in mind, this is not something you would do if you were using one of these three front-end frameworks because they have already done this for you. What I'm gonna show you would probably be you don't want to use the setup that at least the default setup that the major frameworks have given you. And this is like you want to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself and set up Webpack yourself. I'm going to show you how you would do that. So I'm gonna do the basic setup. I'm gonna do the CSS. If you're gonna add CSS into the mix, I'm gonna show you how to do hot reload, which is the common thing where you edit your code, you save your code, and then the server detects that you change your code in some way, and it will refresh your browser to reflect the newest state of your code. And yeah, I'll show you hot reload, which is done with something called Webpack Dev Server, in case you have heard of this. And then I'm gonna add TypeScript to the mix to show you how you would set up TypeScript with a bare bones Webpack configuration. And then I will also add React to the mix. If you wanna, I set up the Webpack stuff myself, and I just decided today I want to add React to my bare bones project. And you can do that yourself with your own Webpack setup. And at the end, I'll show you like so if you use React, you most likely have used something called Create React App, which is people call CRA for short. I'm going to show you. So CRA has this eject feature, which says, hey, I no longer want to use CRA, and I want to start rolling up my sleeves and configure Webpack by myself. And if you were a CRA user and then you decided to eject, then what you would end up doing is you're no longer using CRA after that action, and then what they do is they spit out a Webpack config file for you to modify on your own, and then at that point you're responsible for dealing with Webpack directly yourself. And I'll show you how to do that and what does it look like after you do that. So that's the plan. So let's get into it. Any questions before I start?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah?
Oh, I was
Okay.
just giving you some feedback. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's do this. All right. So what I have done so far is nothing, basically nothing. Okay, I made this file that has what I wrote. But other than that, I have an empty directory. So I just created an empty directory. I cd'd into the empty directory. So from your perspective, I haven't done anything at all other than that. So now I'm going to set up a new front-end project using npm. And I'm going to use npm init with a -y, which just means I want to say yes to all the annoying questions they're going to ask me. And then what it does is generates a package.json file that looks like this, very bare bones. So it's got nothing. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Webpack, the two npm packages that all Webpack users will use. So npm install, and those are Webpack and Webpack -CLI. And I'm gonna say save dev, save it as a dev dependency into my package JSON file. Okay, so it did that. And if I come back into my package JSON file, you see they are in the file there. Now I'm going to make, I'm also going to add a couple of libraries that I'm actually going to use in my, I'm going to make a very small bare bones front end application just for show. It's not going to do much interesting, but I am going to use 2 npm packages just to show that I'm using packages. So the packages I'm going to use are Lodash and Hyperscript. Hyperscript, I'll show you what it does in a moment, but it just like if you want to use the raw DOM API, the raw native DOM API to construct DOM elements and put them together, Hyperscript is a little tool that allows you to write shorter syntax to do that in a terser way. Okay, so we installed those guys, and now I'm gonna create a source folder, src. This source folder, it's sort of Webpack's recommended directory name. It's configurable. You can change it if you want to. And I'm gonna add a index.js. Okay, so now what I'm going to do in this index.js file, I'm going to import Lodash. I'll say import star as underscore from Lodash. I'll also import Hyperscript. I think I do it like this. If I'm wrong about this, I'll have to fix it later. Actually, I have a cheat sheet. Oh, the cheat sheet says I should do it like this. So yeah, I'm gonna say import the what's coming in from Hyperscript. I'm gonna alias that to the letter H. I'll show you quickly the Hyperscript README, just so you get a taste of what that might look like. Yeah, so this is like it's almost like you're writing HTML in JavaScript, which you're also doing in React. So, but yeah, it's something like this. But for now, we're not going into React yet, which is why I'm doing this. Okay, so now I have both Lodash and Hyperscript imported. I'm gonna write the app, and for the app, all I'm going to do is have a list of people's names. I'll write some. I've been watching the chess world championship recently, so I'll write down the names of some people that are associated with that. Okay, so I have a list of names of people, and then I'm going to try to use something from Lodash. Maybe like I use map to loop over each person. And then for each person, I'll generate a LI element. And with the Hyperscript library, the way I generate an LI element is like this. Okay, so this statement should map each person into an LI element. So at the end, I should expect to get a list of LIs. So there are, yeah, list of LIs. And then I'm going to make a UL element, an ordered list. And again, I'll use Hyperscript to give me a UL element. And this time, I'm going to take the LIs and give it to the UL as its children. And I can use this spread operator like this to do it. So at the end, should end up with a UL element that has a list of these people as the LI element. And then after that, how about we do, we just append it to the body of this document. So this is the native DOM API for appending one element onto another to append child. And so if we do this, and we try to execute this JavaScript in a web page, let's try that and see what happens. Maybe I'll do, yeah. Okay, let's give this thing a title. I'll say Webpack demo. And then I'm gonna put a script in the body as the last thing inside the body. Okay, so I have this index.html file, and now I'm going to open it in my web browser. And let's see what happened. I don't see the list of people. And I'm getting an uncaught syntax error that says cannot use import statement outside a module. So the problem is we're using import statements and the browser isn't letting me use import statements at the moment. As I did mention earlier, I could use ESM modules, but in order to use ESM modules, I will need to do something like I have to tell the browser that I'm using ESM modules like this. But I'm not going to do that here because that's not what this talk is about. In this talk, we're using Webpack to grant us the feature of JavaScript modules. So what we'll do instead is use Webpack to pre-process our source code so that it's been sort of the ability to import stuff will be granted to us by Webpack when we use Webpack to do this. So how do we use Webpack to do this? Oh, one thing I want to also mention is I have created this GitHub repository, which is going to have all of the source code that I'm creating here. And it also has links to the various documentation in the Webpack documentation site, which that's how I learned all of this myself. So you can take a deeper look into each of the things I cover in this talk on your own time. And speaking of which, I kind of want to do commit as I go. So maybe what I'll do now is do a git init, and then I'll just do a commit right now. I will definitely want to ignore the node modules folder. And I will want to ignore the package lock folder as well. Okay. And then I'll add everything. I'll say first commit. I'll just say installed Webpack and made first index.js file. Okay. So now the question is how do we use Webpack to pre-process our source code so that we get modules? Let's do that. So I believe the way is you call the Webpack script. You can't quite just do that because we when we install dependencies, they go into our node modules folder. What you could do is go inside the node modules folder and find the Webpack executable here. It's under your node modules folder and then that bin, and then there's Webpack. So if we run that, it will do its thing. It will actually look for this specific file, source index.js. Hold on. I think it did, yeah. I think it did do that. Okay. And what it did is take this file, read through it to find any import statements. And if they are import statements, it'll take the source code of the module that was imported and sort of replace this import statement with the actual source code of the module itself, in a sense. We can, and what it has created is this Dist folder. It stands for distribution. Like if you want to distribute your source code onto the website, and if you look into this main.js that it has created, you can't really read this because it's been minified, or uglified, whatever you want to call it. But for educational purposes, I want to be able to read it. So the way to do that, I believe, is one thing about calling Webpack this way, if you don't like having to type this long bit just to be able to run Webpack, a slightly shorter way to do it is npx. Type npx Webpack, and it'll do the same thing. And npx also has a bunch of other superpowers, such as it'll automatically install the thing for you if it's not already there. But now what I actually want to do is to set the mode. It has this warning message for me. It says you should have to set the mode. Where was that? Yeah, you should have to set the mode to development or production, and I haven't done that, and it defaults to production. So if I want to set the mode, how do I do that? Well, I'm gonna look at the help menu, and I should see. Where's the mode? Is it env? Oh, here, -- mode. Okay, so I'm gonna do -- mode and set the mode to development. Yeah, and now so when I didn't do this, what it did by default was set it to production. Okay, but now that I have set it to development, the output of the file that it generated now looks like this, but this is still horrible. It has put put the source code of each module inside an eval, and even if you don't hate eval, which I know most JavaScript developers do, but even if you don't hate eval, this is still hard to read. And this is only done in development, so maybe that's the saving grace there. But this is still hard for me to read. So again, for educational purposes, I actually want to show you the code in a mode that's more readable. And that mode is, we have to find that mode in the DevTool option. The DevTool option, for some reason, by default, we're using the eval mode, which, as you can see, is not that helpful. A version that's easier to read is actually source map. Okay, so we're going to use the source map mode in addition to the development mode. So I think this is DevTool source map. And now, hopefully, yeah. Now I have something that's actually more readable. After I have used the development mode, and for the DevTool option, I put in source map. So now, if we sort of scroll through and look at this code, each module's source code is embedded in this very large, potentially very large main.js file. And the first one is actually a module called browser split. And I have a suspicion it's one of the sub-dependencies of Hyperscript. So, but let's search in the main file for like one of our people. We'll look for Fabiano, and there's Fabiano, and you can see that this is our original source code. It went from our source code into this section of the main.js file, and you can also see that each of the import statements in our source code has been replaced with one of these blobs. So like, so the Lodash import statement became this Webpack require thing, and then the output value became this long thing called Lodash Webpack imported module 0, and that ends up getting used wherever you actually use Lodash. Like here, Lodash.map, they turn that into Lodash Webpack imported module 0.map. And here I just use H for Hyperscript, and they turn that into Hyperscript Webpack imported module 1. So that's what Webpack has done for us. Like, and this is like pulling back the curtain to see all the weird stuff that it has to do, just to get modules to us, basically. So that's how modules works, at least the way that Webpack implements it. And then the actual source code of Hyperscript and Lodash is embedded, above our source code somewhere in here, and it's probably saved into some registry, which is just an object that's holding the source code of all those modules. Okay. Yeah, so that's how modules work in Webpack, and I wanted to show that to you. But usually, so this is what Webpack does by default. But usually you want to configure it in some way, and the way you configure Webpack is by creating a file called. Hold on, I wanna commit. Oh, actually, I didn't make any changes, so I'm not gonna commit. I'm gonna put Dist in the ignores. Okay. So let's start configuring this guy, and we're gonna add a webpack.config.js file. And what this file looks, so this file actually is supposed to be a module in the Node.js sense. It's like a common JS / Node.js module. So we're gonna export out from this module a configuration object. That's how it usually works. And here, the configuration file allows us to specify these two things that we specified on the command line. So if we want mode to always be development, we can specify that in here. So we no longer have to type it all out in the command line like this. And same thing with dev tool. If we want source map to always be the selection, then we put it in here. And yeah, I'll just show you that. So once we do this, we can just call it like this, and it would respect those configurations. So we see the same kind of style output here. But the things we want to add is let's add some more of the default configurations that we already are using to make them explicit, and also let them know how to change them in the case that you want to change them. So the file name, output file name is main.js. That's what goes in here. So you can change this. Sometimes I call it bundle.js, but I'll keep it the same for now. You can also change the path of what the directory name is that you want it to go. And usually you do it like this: resolve path.resolve dir name dist. But in order to do this, you have to import this path thing module from Node.js. And we're using Node.js stuff here. Okay. So next thing is we actually want to, like, now that this sort of, we generated a file that has the modules in it, we should be able to run this generated module, generate the main.js in our web page, and we should expect that to work. So let's just give that a try. Yep, there's our list of people on the web page, so that proves that it worked. Okay, but we could also do it in a more streamlined way. We could use something called the HTML Webpack plugin, which I think we have to install. And what that does is it'll allow you to specify a template HTML file that you want to use, but it'll automatically insert this script tag there, so that you don't have to depend on knowing exactly what the output generated JavaScript file's name is. So you can write it like this. So I'll show you how to do that. And this is a very common thing to do with Webpack. So I'm going to say npm install HTML Webpack plugin. I'll just save that. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my Webpack configuration here. And I have to register it as a plugin. I have to tell Webpack, hey, this is my list of plugins. And I'm going to add the, I have to import it first. HTML Webpack plugin equals require HTML Webpack plugin. Okay, I required this Webpack. Unfortunately, we're using the require syntax for modules. This file gets run in the Node.js context. We're gonna use the old way of using Node.js modules. So once you have required this guy, we're gonna put a new instance of the HTML Webpack plugin into the plugins array, and we're gonna put temp and tell it we're gonna use our own our own index.html. We're gonna use this file as the template for you to generate an HTML file, which will end up going into the dist folder. Okay. So now, if we run npx webpack again to regenerate everything, if we did it right, which I have an extra semicolon, so let me fix that. So let's try that again. Oops, I did another thing wrong. Okay, I'm gonna need a object literal here, because that's an entry inside the object. Okay, so now it did the same thing it did before, except that it also should have generated an index HTML file and put that into its dist folder. Yeah, you can see that. So now we can say, hey, everything in the dist folder, if we just deploy that to a web server, then the app has everything it needs to run. And one way we can prove that is if you have Python, in Python you can run a one-line, I think you do directory dist. You can, HTTP server. So in Python, you can run this one-line command and you get a web server. And we're basically saying make this dist directory the root directory of the web server. And if we did that and we went to a web server, we would get the app fully working. So that proves that this works. Okay, so I'm gonna commit this. I'll say okay. Any questions before I move on? I don't know if I'm going too fast, too slow, or what. Okay. Okay. So now that we have this working, let's look into code hot reloading. Yeah. Let's look into code hot reloading. So the problem with this setup is every time after changing something, like if I wanted to add some people, after I modify this source code, I'm gonna have to rerun this Webpack to build everything again, and that's kind of tedious. It'd be nice if it just did that automatically, so I don't have to manually come in here and do it. So Webpack has a solution for that, and it's called Webpack Dev Server. So we're gonna do that. So, and that is documented. That's documented here. Okay. Yeah, the documentation, I've listed them here. So, okay, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna install Webpack Dev Server and save that as a development dependency. Okay, and then I suspect that might be all we have to do. And then I say Webpack serve, I believe. npx, instead of Webpack normal, I do Webpack serve. And then it should have started a server. And it's telling me the server is at port 8080. So I'm gonna go to localhost port 8080. And there's my app. And now it's hot reloading which means I should be able to Steven add more names. Yeah, and the hot reloading will automatically refresh the app and add the names there automatically. So yeah, not only will it automatically recompile the source code using Webpack, it'll also tell the browser to reload itself, so that browser reloads the new code that has been generated and put into this main.js that was previously generated. So that's nice. I think most web developers are kind of used to this kind of development workflow, this kind of convenience, and all the major frameworks have this. Like all three of these have this, and all three of them are probably using Webpack Dev Server to do this for developers.
Hey, do they hide all the configuration from you, or is that exposed somewhere?
So in different frameworks have made different choices. In Angular and I think in Vue.js, they allow you to pass in a configuration. I don't know. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I think Vue.js explicitly allows you to say, hey, you want to configure your Webpack in a specific way, pass in this object. I'll take your configuration and merge it with my Webpack configuration. I think Angular, you might need a plugin, install some kind of Angular plugin to get the same kind of configuration options. React takes a more strict approach, which is they said, I don't want you messing with the Webpack configuration, but if you really want to do it, you're gonna have to eject from the safety of my environment, and at that point you're on your own and you're responsible for configuring Webpack yourself. However, there are in the React community there have been people that disagree with that sentiment, and they have made plugins for React that allow you to pass in specific Webpack configurations without having to eject. So those things exist as well. One that comes to mind is called React Rewire. That's probably the classic. Yeah, React app Rewired allows you to do just that. So I guess the answer to your question is kinda. So yes and no, sort of. It depends. But know that internally, all three of them in reality are having to do what we're doing right now. But they just have automated it for you. Okay. So the next thing, I think due to the time, I'm kind of running low on time. I'm actually gonna skip the CSS part because I want to show TypeScript and React. I think those are more important. So let's dig into how to set up TypeScript. So okay, I'm gonna stop the dev server. Okay, and so let's say I want to use TypeScript in my project instead. So I'm gonna rename my index.js to index.ts. Okay, I just did that. So now it's TypeScript. I'm not using any TypeScript features yet, but this is TypeScript. Anything that's JavaScript is TypeScript. But as you know, the first thing you will need most likely is to create a tsconfig.json file if you have ever sort of set up a project that uses TypeScript, you would have had to do this. And for now, I'm not gonna configure anything, but I'm gonna put a placeholder here. Oops, and for compiler options, but I'm not gonna change anything. Oh wait, I have too many curly brackets. Okay, I think this is what I want. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just leaving it empty, but we're gonna add something here later, probably. But I don't need to put anything just to get a working demo, so I'm not gonna add anything. And now the thing we want is called the TS loader, which is a with the basic setup anyway. So webpack.org also has documentation for this, which is very thorough. So it tells us to install TypeScript, which is obvious that you would need to do, but also install the TS loader. And the TS loader is the Webpack TypeScript plugin that will marry the TypeScript with the Webpack. So we'll go ahead and install those things. Okay. So now that we have these things, we're gonna need to go into the Webpack configuration. And let's see, let me look at my cheat sheet, how to do this. Okay, so we're gonna need actually a bunch of rules. And this is actually the first time that I'm talking about this rules array. Yeah, so I'm gonna spend a little bit of time talking about this. So I'm gonna set it up first. So we're gonna add a rule to the internal of the Webpack pipeline, and the Webpack pipeline is very much based on rules that tell Webpack what actions to take in response to what files encountered. And we can configure those rules to basically arbitrarily make Webpack do anything we want. Like Webpack is extremely configurable in that sense. So to show you the rule that we're going to use for compiling TypeScript files, that rule is going to look like this. So first there's this test line. I'm going to blow up the font here. Okay. All right. So this test line that says, hey, this is a regular expression. So this is a regular expression. So any file that matches this regular expression pattern with its name, any file whose name matches this regular expression pattern, we're gonna apply this rule. So this is a trigger for when this rule is activated. But what is the thing that's activated? Well, we're gonna say use TS loader. So if you hey Webpack, if you encounter any file that looks like this, by the way, this regular expression says it ends with .ts, optionally with X at the very end. This question mark means optionally. This $sign means the end of the string. So if you get .ts at the end of the string, or optionally x at the end of the string, then this test passes. And if the test passes, we're going to use TS loader. We want to exclude the node modules folder. If any of your node modules have TypeScript files in them, we don't want to apply the TS loader on them, because there could potentially be a lot of those, and we don't want to spend the time doing that work. So this is the rule that we're going to add to enable TypeScript for our project. Yeah, let's try this. So I'm going to run npx webpack one more time. Yeah, ouch. What happened? Oh, I forgot something. We also need to add another section called the resolve section. As I understand it, this tells the Webpack when you importing things, whenever you have an import statement, and then Webpack is looking into that import statement to decide this import refers to that module or that other file. We need to provide a list of extensions, which are files that could potentially be modules. So that's also needed. Hold on. I misspelled something. This is extensions, plural. Okay, that actually worked once I fixed those couple of mistakes. So now, now I think TypeScript actually works. And to prove that, I'm gonna try to use something that's TypeScripty. So, so let's first of all let's do npx webpack surf. We could easily add these as scripts in our package JSON file here. So you don't have to type those commands all out by hand every time. I'll assume you know how to do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to this. Yeah, so go back to this test web page for the app, and it seems to work. If we remove some names, yeah, the app updates. And now if I add something that's TypeScripty, like a name declaration, add another person, so it still works. So it proves that it's using TypeScript. So yeah, so we're able to use TypeScript. Now these couple of things that might be annoying, it says I don't know the type of Lodash. Well, that's prompting us to import the type declaration module for Lodash, and which is usually at types / the module's name if it exists. So we'll go ahead and install that. So at types Lodash. We'll do the same for Hyperscript as well. So npm install at types Hyperscript. And now my code editor is happy. It can resolve the types for Lodash and Hyperscript, and it can verify and can infer the types that are coming out from based on calling the functions from the libraries. So that's TypeScript. We'll kind of out of time. So I didn't get to everything, but maybe I should stop here and let you guys get back to the rest of your day. And maybe I could cover some more in the future if there's interest. But yeah, do you guys have any more questions? No? Okay.
Yeah, nothing for me.
Nothing?
That's
Okay.
all really.
Yeah, okay. In that case, thank you for your attention. And I'll see you guys later.